Hello and welcome to History Check, the show where I recap the most current events of our ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign that we play every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/D&D Roll Call. So this episode I'm going to be combining 2 episodes into one, so let's go! Our heroes were asked to help in the factory by Unique until the dragon was ready for them to fight. They were each given an individual task to do around the factory, such as Hamney was going to help the kobolds install the radio transmitter, but ended up being the kobolds' chiropractor for the rest of the evening, being known now as the great healer of the kobolds. Sorn was given to Marvin to help smith and form the final bits of armor for the back end of the dragon, to which Sorn noticed and learned of a large crystalline battery, kind of like in the ship, learning that they're a little more prevalent than what people might think of them to be. Chet was tasked with helping Unique finish the arcane formula to combine the back half of the dragon and the front half of the dragon, to which they discovered that Unique had been unknowingly mixing the 2 continents' main form of arcane equations, trying to mix them into one form of magic, to which Chet was able to help with. Morena, on the other hand, was asked to be studied for her more aberrant mind sorceress magic, to which she agreed, and through that experience learned of exactly how Ubrin implanted the magic of the Mind Flayers within her and just how strong connected they still were. So that was going to lead a little bit more into Morena's self-understanding about how her magic works and how her mind is working currently. They also learned that the doctor who was working on her, named Henry, knew of Morena's original plight, and she knew that she was the girl that fell into the whirlpool. And we'll get back to that right after the fight. So once they were done helping with the various tasks, they were let off for a little bit of a break, to which the group went and got Chet's money from the bursar's office at the wizarding school, and then stopped to get some sweets to celebrate their recent achievements and successes of the day. On their way back, though, they heard a large explosion and saw plumes of smoke coming from the factory where they left. Upon their arrival, they noticed that various wizards and artificers and other magical users were creating defenses and bulwarks around the front of the factory to stop whatever was going on inside from coming outside, to which once they found Unique, learned that the dragon with the Dominion orb inside of it went a little haywire, and they were asked to stop it. To which the group obliged. As they were already planning on fighting it, they knew that this would be the perfect attempt for them to go all out. To which they did. Maybe a little bit too all out on the surrounding factory, though. Because of a spell Chet cast, they learned that the plasma ball they were, fighting in front of cracked and then exploded, causing most of the dragon pieces and the living spells to explode around the factory, as well as destroying the power source within the factory. So everything within the factory began to, melt down, much like the potions that they were working on up by where Morena was getting tested. And after the fight, there's a little bit of an exchange with Unique. Unique pulled Chet aside and asked for a favor to let Parthon know about this, and maybe Parthon could do something to help Unique in the current situation with the artificers. Henry also pulled Chet aside and let Chet know just the severity of Morena's mental state instability and how certain events or triggers could cause her mental blockage in her brain to shift even more and split between her Mind Flayer possessed and her more humanity side. They also learned that he had a way to contact Morena's parents and to bring them to the capital if possible. It was just going to take a few days to see if it was possible and take a few days for them to get there. The group agreed and information was set off, and we'll see just how that happens in an episode or 2. Now afterwards, Chet and Morena wanted to go on a very fancy date, while Sorn and Hemnes agreed to stay and help with the reconstruction a bit of the factory. So first we'll stay with Sorn and Hemnes. Their night went as followed. They helped around, they picked up things, they cleaned up as they could. Sorn approached Marvin and asked if he could come and help with the reconstruction of the forge and the smithing area, and maybe if Sorn could learn how to use these smithing tools and learn the art of metalwork and metal crafting for these purposes. Marvin said sure, but he'd have to ask Unique first, since Unique was technically the person who ran the factory. Sorn talked to him, and Unique ultimately said, sure, that's fine, as long as you're helping. Yeah, we can totally make that happen. Just don't break anything, please. To it, Soren and Hemnes left. Being this close to the area where they kept the airships, they went to go check on their airship to see if it was still Paylor or to see what they could do. After talking to the guards and letting them go up and in, they spent their night in the no longer Paylor influence, but original influence with now lightning bolts all over it, the Cloud Jumper. To which a little bit of an investigation of the ship had led them to discover a stowaway, you could say, waiting for them on the bottom of the ship. To which they found it was Thor, who took control over the ship once Paylor left it, and let Soren know that the bottom is now a sparring room for himself to train his body and mind for upcoming events. And they spent the night drinking and eating and reveling with Thor, which made Soren very happy to spend so much quality time with his deity. Now on the reverse side, Chet and Morena went to inform Parthon of the events from the factory and what happened, and if he could do something to help Unique get the plasma ball back or start resetting the factory. To which Parthon said, yeah, no, I kind of expected. Progress sometimes has regrettable outcomes, and things need a little bit of fine-tuning before they're ready, which surprised Chet and Morena for how easygoing he was in the situation. And as they left to go on their fancy date, one of the woodland creatures threw a box into their elevator, to which Chet and Morena, instead of opening the box to see what was inside, walked over and gave it back to Parthon, to which Parthon assured them that there was no need for them to worry. It shouldn't have gone to them. There was a little bit of a miscommunication, and he got rid of the paper. He burnt the paper up, to which Chet tried to do an insight, but ultimately failed, and then Morena attempted to read Parthon's mind, which caused a bit of a situation with Parthon, as he revealed that he had a ring of mind shielding, so any attempt on that would be literally impossible. And there was a discussion, albeit tense, a little bit of worry on Chet and Morena's face as Chet realized what Morena had done, and Morena coming to terms with the fact that maybe it wasn't the best idea to try and do that to Parthon. Had a discussion about trust and how they needed to work together, and that so far the Stormbreakers were showing Parthon that maybe they're a little bit unwieldy or a little bit too chaotic, and that he really only at this point trusted Chet because of his connection with Chet and Chet's willingness to be understanding and work with Parthon and honest with him. The two then, after that awkward exchange, went and had their date, which was somehow more awkward than the conversation with Parthon. As they went to the Diamond Soul, dressed up in their nicest clothes, they had a run-in with some goblins who, even though they were amicable towards them, learned that goblins were not allowed in the upper ring where the Diamond Soul was held, and Chet saw them being thrown off into the large moat next to the castle. The Diamond Soul, once they learned of who they were, their little bit of awkward times with the goblins, and just how important they were because they came from the castle and they were staying at the castle, were waited on hand and foot, which made Chet and Morena very uneasy, and they were unused to having this much attention put on them in the sense of people wanting to serve them and get them what they wanted and not leave them alone on their date. So all in all, as the DM, I would rate their date as an awkward 10 out of 10. Romantic, 0 out of 10. They did get, some drinking and some food, and they found that the meat they were eating was dragon meat, which caused a little bit of concern for them. But they spent their night reveling with each other in their room at the castle. Now in the morning, Soren and Hemnes woke up with no real hangovers from the night of debauchery they had with Thor. Soren remembered that they were supposed to leave the boat, and that the guard that they brought with him had been waiting there the entire night, to which the guard came and knocked on the door and was like, all right, I've been here all night, have a good day. Please don't do this again to us. And left. So Hemnes went down to the bottom where they were going to meet with Thor for their sparring match that were going to happen this morning. Thor was ready to punch Soren whenever he walked in the door, but Hemnes answered the door, so luckily Hemnes didn't get punched by a god. But Hemnes agreed to go and get Soren for a little bit of a prank to throw on him, but it kind of didn't work out. Thor kind of only opened the door into Soren. It was a positive way to start the morning. To which then the sparring event happened, and Soren and Hemnes learned just how powerful Thor was, even though they kind of suspected he was going to be leagues and bounds above them, but learned that there was an oncoming storm, if you would, and that this was truly to prepare Soren for the upcoming events, which he could not elaborate on, but Soren understood that he was going to need to train more and more and more to be ready to fight this oncoming evil. Now we will flip back over to Chet and Marina, who had a pretty good morning together. Chet went to talk to Devin about the incident at the Diamond Soul, to which he learned that the goblins being thrown into the moat was actually not illegal, and that the guard who did it is kind of a jerk, but there's a bit of a class discrepancy between the upper rings and lower rings. So afterwards, he went and got Marina, and both of them went to the interrogation of Agnesis, which went fairly well all in all. There was a little bit of awkward tension and tooth pulling to get information out of Agnesis, and they learned that Oska, the warforged that they had met at the Funnel of Fun, was actually, his job was to try and find Agnesis, which he was kind of mad that he was in the same city as Agnesis and still didn't find him because Agnesis is in a warforged body. So, after Chet persuading his uncle to give more information on it, he learned of a man named Pyramus, and they learned the true events of the evening, where it was Pyramus who had brought the curse, and that they had fired the curse first at Devon, thinking that he was the king, to which Parthon reflected it and caused the explosion, which infected both Agnesis and Devon. And the reason why Agnesis's curse was more advanced is because whatever evil force that gave him the curse took his anger out on Agnesis and caused the decay to happen at a much more rapid pace. Now, agreement was made for Chet to work with Agnesis to form a plan to bring Pyramus to an area where they could capture him and get more information out of him to learn more about whatever deity or power this was that created the curse, to try and get more information on and what they could do to save Devon, and also catch at this point, war criminal towards the kingdom of Erotas. They also had a little bit of an exchange about what Agnesis should be living like and how they would, and the king was very happy with Chet's more leaning towards the king's position of punishment for him, with now giving him the elaborate lifestyle that Agnesis wanted. All in all, the discussion and interrogation of Agnesis went fairly well. I'd say the information was gotten, and true characteristics of Chet towards his uncle were seen, and how the dichotomy between the job of being an emissary of the crown towards family really displayed itself there. And that was how the session went. I'd say both sessions went A-okay. We're continuing right along. I can't wait to see what happens in the next session. I hope it's something fun. But until tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/DND Roll Call, your history has been checked.